90% of what we consume is taken part in maritime commerce. Globalization has made the world one big place, totally interconnected. 60,000 cargo ships are moving around the world right now, each one with up to 18,000 containers. A huge invisible industry that gets the world moving. But how does this affect citizens at a local level? This is what we're going to study right now, taking the study case of the city of Barcelona and its port. "75% of the activity sectors in Catalonia have commercial links with the port of Barcelona. The logistic and industrial cluster of the port supposes nearly 6% of Catalonia's GDP, and it also gives work to 5.5% of the workers in the autonomous region. The port has a privileged location that allows him to have connections with major cities of Europe, being part of a really good and efficient network. It has links with the maritime terminal of Zaragoza, the dry port of Madrid, or the Perpignan St. Charles container terminal. It is part of a huge motorway of the sea that has the goal of introducing new logistic chain in Europe. Barcelona's port is actually one of the most important ports in the southwest motorway. 60,000 ships move around the world constantly. In 2014, 1,023 ships stopped at Catalan ports, 60% of which stopped at the port of Barcelona. Also, since 2014, Barcelona's port has only been growing, concretely 3% every year. And we should also take into account that Barcelona's port is accountable for 10% of the trade in all the ports of Spain. So, in the overall, Barcelona's port is very good economically for Catalonia, and it has only good projections for the future. But is there anything that's not so good about this port? Barcelona demands the port and the airport a plan against climate change. The port of Barcelona is the principal sender of fumes to the atmosphere. A recent report by the environmental group Ecologists in Action said toxic particles from the ships were detected as far as 249 miles from Barcelona's port. The impact is exacerbated by ships leaving their engines running while in port. The activity being collected to the port and airport generates 12.9 tons annually of CO2, which is equivalent to 4 times the emissions generated by the city. The activity from the port produces alone 5.3 millions of tons. As we've seen before, the port of Barcelona is the greatest polluter of nitrous gases in the city, being responsible for the 46.2% of the emissions of these gases in the city. Besides this, if we look at the data, we can see that the areas that are more polluted are not the ones more near to the port, but the ones that are more affected by traffic. For instance, L'Eixample and Gràcia are the areas that are more polluted in Barcelona. And every year, for the last 10 years, an average of 1,000 people have died because of, that's been attributed to pollution. But can we really blame the port of Barcelona for these deaths? The answer is no. While it's true that the port of Barcelona is responsible for 46.2% of the emissions of nitrous gases in the city, it only is responsible for the 7.6% of the nitrous gases that are detected in the city. Because what happens is that most of the gases that are produced by the port, they go directly to the atmosphere. So we are seeing that the port that works thanks to global trade actually does not, in this case, cause a local problem, rather than it makes bigger a global problem, which is the emission of gases in the atmosphere. To sum up, we have seen how global trade has influenced Barcelona's harbour and its local context. 75% of the activity sectors in Catalonia have commercial links with the port, and its relevance and activity has been growing, especially during the last few years. More than 500 enterprises give work directly to 41,000 people in the port, and a total of 170,000 people would not be working right now if Barcelona's harbour didn't exist. Regarding the ecological impact of the port, we have seen that it is the biggest polluter in the city, but it does not affect its citizens directly due to its location. Besides this, the ecological impact of the port affects the atmosphere, exacerbating a global issue. So, we can conclude that global trade, and especially the wine arriving thanks to the port of Barcelona, has affected in a very good way the city of Barcelona and its people.